forged on the gridiron in September. Perfected in the magic of March. For the fans who love the crunch of the pads, prefer a dunk, and expect nothing but the best. It's Bigger Ten. Here's Steve Deace.
Greetings. Welcome to a jam-packed edition of Bigger Ten. I'm Steve Deace alongside my co-host but never partner, Aaron McIntyre. We have a ton to get to. We are going to break down, Aaron, the brand new Big Ten TV deal and what it means and where it may go in the future as far as college sports and conference expansion is concerned. We'll do that actually in the next segment. But I don't know about you. We got all off season to do those sort of meta tropes. I'm ready to talk some ball.
Oh,
brother.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
We had a game week here this week. The Big Ten taking front and center stage. Big Ten is going to kick off the 2022 college football season with Nebraska and Northwestern in Dublin, Ireland. We'll get into that and more as we begin with the Big Five here on Bigger Ten. So last week we kind of did the first round of observations from the BTN bus tour. Let's start off with round two. After watching the culmination of the annual bus tour that the BTN does. And based on what I saw, Aaron, I've got 5 predictions, and I want to get your take on each and every one, okay? So this will be item number 1. My first prediction is I think Iowa, Minnesota, Purdue, and Wisconsin will each go into the final weekend of Big Ten play with a shot to win the West. That's right, 4 teams I think will have a shot to win the West going into the final weekend.
Yes, I mean, there's always a shot to win. There's but in actual contention, you could see a plausible scenario where this could happen. I think it's only going to be about 3 of those teams. I think one of those teams is going to drop off to the point where they're going to have to basically have a feather land on the moon type of odds for that to happen. So otherwise, though, I do agree with the general point that there's still it's going to be anybody's ball game towards the end of the season in the Big Ten West.
Which one of those teams do you think it'll be?
If you put a gun to my head right now, I would have to say Iowa.
Okay.
Now, on the one hand, people are sleeping on them. On the other hand, I don't really have a lot of reason to say you shouldn't be sleeping on Iowa, just offensively.
Is Iowa's win total 7.5 or 8?
It is
every single year.
7.5, 8, 8.5.
Yeah. All right, number 2, Michigan and Ohio State will be a matchup of top 5 teams when they face each other at the end of the year. And I will tell you, man, this is the most effusive praise of a Michigan team I have ever seen from the BTN crew. And you could tell they were even a little surprised how much they liked Michigan. They kind of had bought into the narrative. They lost all these guys. They'll still be okay, but it was kind of a flash in the pan. And Jerry DiNardo's out there invoking 10-year war references and everything else. I think, though, those 2 teams are both going to be ranked in the top 5 when they play Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, and even if I think it's a possibility, even if Michigan slips up to Iowa, which is kind of the only place that I see, maybe Penn State as well. But if they slip up in one of those games, I could still see them being top 5 because I think most of your schedule, you're going to have some eye-popping numbers. You just are. Your schedule is soft, so you're going to put up some eye-popping numbers, and those are going to be the things that get you in the top 5. Is that game going to be on Fox this year?
Yes.
I would imagine so.
Yeah,
okay.
that's going to be on Fox forever.
Yeah.
The way that the Big Ten does its TV deal is with a draft.
With a draft, yeah.
And the Fox is always going to get the first pick, and they're always going to pick that game first.
Yep. So regardless, though, that is, even if Michigan slips up once, I know you don't think that's going to happen, but even if they slip up once,
I can see it happening for sure.
I could see that still being a top 5 matchup.
All right, next, number 3, I think Maryland's going to beat Michigan State. I thought
you're a Sparty hater, Steve.
I thought the other team that the BTN crew clearly were surprised by how much they liked was Maryland. That they thought the young talent on that team was maybe a little further along than they thought. And I go back to what I said in the spring. I thought the least physically imposing team I saw in the Big Ten during the spring was Michigan State.
Yep. Now, especially when we get our confidence picks going again next week, which I'm looking forward to. I know a lot of people gave me flack last year, deservedly so, because they really proved me wrong on numerous occasions of just picking against Sparty every week. But I haven't learned my lesson yet, and I'm just not sold. And I wasn't really sold on them all year last year. They proved me wrong. I just think there's going to be a market correction. So
they had a preseason win total of 4, and they won 11 games. They proved everyone wrong, to their credit. All right, a couple more that I have based on what I saw. I think Rutgers is going to take a significant step back from last year's Gator Bowl team. DiNardo said he didn't think either the offensive line or that new 4-star quarterback were ready to compete yet. And in that division,
Yeah, if it were in the West Division, or any other division in football, maybe, in college football, I should say, other than the two in the SEC, might temper that prediction a little bit. But yeah, if you can't gain a foothold in your own division, that's usually indicative that your entire season is on the line. So I don't know if they even make a bowl game this year. I think there's a possibility. There's a possibility that they could fall off if they are in a position where they have to win the last 2 games of the season. And they come off of a losing streak of on top of that. They've lost 3 games and they have to win. I just don't know where they'll be mentally. So they might not even make a bowl game.
I think they're going to be even worse on offense. And take a definite step back defensively where they were very good last year. All right, one more, and then I'll have a bonus. I think Indiana's going to prove that 2020 was the exception, not the rule. And everybody loves Tom Allen and what a great story they were in 2020. But I go back to what I said last week, and it's even more glaring watching all 14 camp reports. The one team, and then remember, they saw the other team they didn't say much about was Michigan State, but they were there on a day they were doing a post-scrimmage day walkthrough. So there was nothing to see, right? Okay. Indiana, they were there for a full team scrimmage. Tom Allen let them sit and watch and film. And to come out of that when that should have been one of the most revealing practices they got to see, and to do everything they can but talk about the team during their time. I just think, especially after watching now all 14 camp reports, that one really stuck out to me, and that was essentially a signal. Basketball practice begins September 26th.
Yep, this is what's the name of the dude during the national anthem? That's all I got to say.
All right, here's a bonus one. I've got a bonus prediction for you as well. Penn State and Auburn is actually going to be the most important non-conference game in the Big Ten this year. I think it's actually the swing game on both teams' schedules. I think if Penn State goes down there and wins, they're definitely going over their win total. There'll be a ranked team, I think, that'll give them the wind at their sails. They'll be a ranked team pretty much all year long. Go down there and lose, and I think they could end up scuffling just like they did last year. And I think the same thing is true of Auburn. I think that's actually, I know Notre Dame, Ohio State deserves all the hype, but the loser of that game, provided they win the rest of their games, is going to be in the playoff, right? Okay. Plus, it's also the first week of the year. I think that's a real swing game. I think there's more riding on that non-conference game than any other non-conference game in our league this year.
It's funny, I hadn't really thought about this before, but Auburn and Penn State are kind of in similar situations as a program where you're trying to get back. You recruit perennially very well. Now, I know Auburn recently switched out their head coach, but you recruit perennially at a very high level, recruit at a high level, but you're not actually playing at the high level that you come to expect if you're fans of those programs. So, yeah, I can see that as being the swing game on the schedule.
All right. Let's go to topic 2. And I got to tell you, this blew me away when I heard this, and I heard the gentleman in question say this with my own ears. And I thought it was way over the top. John Murray, if you're into college or football betting, you know the name. He runs one of the biggest sports books in Vegas. And I listened to a podcast that he was on last week, Aaron. It was actually with The Bear from ESPN.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that they purposefully... So for just a quick reminder, here's how a line gets set in Vegas. People say that the line Vegas sets is not what they actually think. It is. You're wrong. It is. The initial line that gets set is what they actually think. They have power ratings. They have algorithms. It's what they actually think. The line will then move based on then how the market reacts to that, in order to try to create an equal amount of action on both sides so that Vegas doesn't have to be in the prediction business. They don't have a lot of
outcomes.
These are
forecasts.
Yeah.
They're educated guesses.
Yes, they don't have to. They're usually right, but they don't rely on being right. Then they don't care who wins. They just collect their juice, 10% from whoever, both the winning and losing side, and they're happy. All right, so that's why the line moves. But the initial line is actually what they think. Every now and then, they think the public is way wrong on something, and they will on purpose take lopsided action. And this is what John Murray on this podcast said, that the one team in all of college football that his sportsbook, one of the biggest in Las Vegas, purposefully took lopsided action on was Michigan State over its win total. They said a win total of 7. They on purpose took almost all over money. Almost no one bet Michigan State under after last year's 11-win top 10 team. They on purpose didn't move the number to react. Normally they'd take that much action, move it to 8 to protect themselves. They did not do this. That is how strongly they believe in their metrics that Michigan State is going to have a disappointing season. Again, we're not talking like a win total of 9 here. 7. We're talking about a win total of 7. I don't know. I look at the Michigan State schedule. There are some very difficult games, but I also see like 5 almost guaranteed wins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I thought that was way too strong of a take. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. You know, I don't know about that. I think 7. There's no hook there. So basically, you're saying they have to win 8 games.
Right.
Do you find, or are you able to find 5 losses? No, because 5 losses would be 7-5, and Vegas is okay. The only way that book is going to get wiped out is if they win 8 games. Can they win 8 games? I don't know. I don't know about that, because that's the other thing here as well. If the hook was if there was actually a hook, like a 0.5 on the end of there, this would be maybe a little bit different conversation. But you're talking about 8 wins. I don't know. I would defer to the wise guys on this one, but I didn't think that was that strong of a take.
I'll say this: I'm guessing John Murray has a nicer house than me. So what do I know? All right, next topic. Why?
Dude,
what is the point of this? Why?
I felt dirty. I actually liked Urban Meyer on.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Did
you miss him last year when he wasn't there? Did you miss him at all?
Oh, gravely.
Yeah. What is the point of taking this baggage on? I mean, if you're on that Fox crew, do you know what those signs are going to be like? They're going to be on campuses like every week. Do you know what that signage is going to be like? Why do you need that abuse? What is the point? What does he add? I don't.
Is he willing to be the butt of jokes? I don't know. Maybe he is, but I don't know. His name's Urban Meyer. That's why.
I mean, that Urban Meyer, man. It's just
Coach Theismann.
He needs a break.
Winners. Yeah,
he needs a break. I mean, life's just dealt poor Urban a difficult hand, indeed. All right, let's talk about the Big Ten's next expansion, because I think it is coming. We'll get more into that here next segment. But something to keep in mind. So far, every school the Big Ten has added in this round of expansion, going back to the 2009 year when this kind of began, all of them have belonged to that American Association of Universities, that AAU. That's the research consortium. They've all belonged to them. Now, Nebraska no longer does. They got kicked out. But they did belong to them when the Big Ten added them. That's a hell of a coincidence if it is one, okay? It's not one, by the way. And so if you look at it right now, here are the remaining members in the AAU who play Power Conference football in alphabetical order: Arizona, California, Colorado, Duke, Georgia Tech, Kansas, Missouri, North Carolina, Oregon, Pittsburgh, Stanford, Utah, Virginia, and Washington. Those are the remaining schools that are considered amongst elite public universities from a research standpoint that are in this AAU. And so far, Aaron, since the TV network roulette round of realignment began in 2009, every school the Big Ten has taken at the time belonged to this consortium.
Yeah. Yep. And you can see the ones that, at least that's, you can see the ones that I think they are most likely to take on there right now. That would be Oregon, Washington, Stanford, or if California does California, Oregon, Cal, Stanford, if they get Notre Dame. Again, I think this still all depends and hinges upon whether or not Notre Dame wants to join. I just think the writing is on the wall for them right now. I think it's a matter of time before they announce, yeah, we're going to join your little conference here. So I can also see in the more distant future, Georgia Tech, Duke, North Carolina. Those would be additions, and then get one more, I don't know.
Virginia.
There you go. There you go.
Finally, we mentioned it a few minutes ago. Let's get into it. The big game the first big noon Saturday game is this Saturday with week 0, and it all kicks off. The entire season kicks off, Aaron, with Northwestern against Nebraska. Now, remember, this was supposed to be Nebraska-Illinois the last 2 years, but it did not happen because of COVID, so it got switched to Northwestern for this year. Fall-like temps in Dublin, mid to high 60s, so perfect football weather. The heat won't be an issue. From a personnel standpoint, my power ratings say Nebraska is easily the 13-point favorite that they are in this game. Like, they should win this game by comfortably. But which of these coaches do you trust with an abnormal training schedule, an abnormal travel schedule, to have their team ready to go to play a competent game in late August?
Fat Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Not the guy bragging about his players puking last week like it's 1956. Yeah. And so here's the thing. I'd be more confident picking Nebraska to win if Scott Frost did not go to the game.
Yeah.
They just had the players go out there and play, and let like assistant coach Mark Whipple, who's been an outstanding offensive coordinator in his coaching career, kind of let him decide, or we get a punt or go for it, but the assistants kind of handle everything and the players play. You cannot have, well, Stevie's had a lot of battle. You don't have 5 years of this many one-score losses. The problem is you're the common denominator. The players, they come and they go, you remain. Now, maybe you'll argue it was Adrian Martinez because he did quarterback almost all of those games. Fair enough. I guess we'll find out, because Casey Thompson was not the problem at Texas last year. He was good there. The problem was Texas couldn't stop anybody on defense and just let go of the rope on that side of the ball, and that's why they went 5-7. So, to me, this game is a Rorschach test. This game's a psychological evaluation. Where is the Nebraska psyche? And can Northwestern just hang around, linger, get Nebraska thinking, all right, who's making the big mistake this week, right? Okay. Because I kind of think Northwestern wins or Nebraska rolls. But what do you think?
So the way I'm betting this, I'm doing Northwestern points in the first half. That's the more confident bet that I have. Because if there's one thing that Northwestern does very, very well, it's UGLY. You ain't got no alibi. Ugly up the game. You so ugly. Pat Fitzgerald has made a career out of hitting games with the ugly stick. Iowa has as well. Okay, we have as well, but he's done it better because of the players and personnel that he's been given. So I think they keep it ugly for at least the first half. I am going to take Nebraska for the game though in the points. I do think that they will eventually. Just the talent will be too big of a gap there for Northwestern to overcome. Eventually, they'll pop off. I think Nebraska can pop off a couple of runs or a couple of big plays, and you're sitting there with 6 minutes left in the game, and Nebraska's up by 6 or 7 points, and they get a garbage time touchdown, and Northwestern hasn't been able to do much offensively all day, and before you know it, it's a 13 or 14-point win for Nebraska. So I think it could go down that way. I just anticipate ugly, and I'm fine with that. I've been waiting all summer, all year, for whatever this product is going to be on Saturday. But I think especially early on, Northwestern's gonna really ugly this up.
All right, we shall see. It's just a couple of days away. And when we come back, a full breakdown of what is going to be the most lucrative contract in the history of college sports from a television standpoint for any conference. We'll get into that and what it means and its ramifications for the future of college sports in a moment. So, Aaron, the Big Ten has confirmed it has signed the most lucrative sports television rights deal in the history of any college conference, which was expected. And this has been rumored now for many a moon. But now that the details are out, the size and scope of it and the precedent it sets truly breathtaking. And whenever the Sam Hill was going on over there at Big Ten offices in the early days of the Kevin Warren regime with COVID and everything
There's
else.
There's a big stick over there right now.
Yeah, they're kind of like Kumo D, how you like me now, right about right now. And there's a reason Kevin Warren's got a bit of a swagger to him, and he should when you look at some of these particulars from this deal. So let's lay out the parameters of it, then we'll discuss it in total. So depending on the school, if you've got a partial payout or a full, and the year, payouts are going to be between 80 and 100 million starting in 2023 per year per school. And to put that in perspective, Aaron, the Big Ten fetched about half what the entire Major League Baseball package is worth in TV rights. Think about that. That's one conference. All right. It's a 7-year deal. Not one of these 20-year deals like what the ACC did or a 15-year deal like what the SEC did. It's a 7-year deal, which means the Big Ten will negotiate its TV rights actually 2 more times before the SEC's media rights deal with Disney even comes up again. That is not a coincidence, I am sure. Also, it's an NFL-style deal with exclusive windows across multiple platforms and networks like you see on NFL Sunday. So Big Noon Saturday will be on Fox. CBS gets 3:30 Eastern, and then the NBC game in primetime, that'll be marketed like NBC's primetime Sunday night NFL game. CBS will do this part-time next year while it finishes with the SEC in 2023 and then go full-time with the Big Ten in 2024. Along those lines, rights to the Big Ten championship game. This is something we hadn't even thought of, but this is a brilliant stroke as well. Rights to the Big Ten championship game will also rotate across platforms, just like you see with the Super Bowl, between those 3 networks, with Fox getting the most avails. No TV rights for ESPN for the first time since 1982, but don't write that off just yet. We'll have more on that here in a moment. Peacock, that's NBC Universal's streaming platform. It becomes the exclusive streaming home of 8 football games per year and dozens of basketball games as well. Kevin Warren, as a follow-up, the commissioner told HBO Sports the Big Ten could easily get to 20 teams and will be considering paying players because both those things are going to happen. Further Big Ten expansion, which is coming, opens up more inventory, and that could bring ESPN back into the fold. For example, a Big Ten West Coast exclusive window at 10:30 Eastern time, perhaps. That is definitely something that ESPN could be looking at. And now, since you and I put this rundown for this show together, there are widespread reports that Oregon is having preliminary conversations with the Big Ten. I've heard from a little birdie those conversations are beyond preliminary, and that is going to go down. And it won't just be Oregon by themselves, but that the Big Ten is going to get to 20 teams. I don't think they'll wait very long. I don't know that it'll happen during the middle of the year. Maybe they'll wait till next winter. But the idea that these schools that have a chance to go to the Big Ten, I mean, the Pac-12 is being told, or what's left of it, they're being told that they're looking at 25 to 27 million per team. I am told that Oregon informed the Big Ten that they would be willing to take a Rutgers-like deal, where they wouldn't get a full share for at least 5 years. Because even if they got a half a share, so 40 to 50 million instead,
still more.
It's still like almost double what they were going to get from staying in the Pac-12. Plus, you know which of those leagues, Aaron, has the long-term growth potential at the exact same time. So this is an absolute game changer. The size and scope was enough that Paul Feinbaum almost spent his entire show the other day talking about it down in SEC country. Where, Aaron, what say you?
So there are several takeaways, and you summed them up nicely, but I think there are 2 or 3 things that I like the most about this deal. This is shaping up not just the way that the Saturdays are shaping up with the TV windows and slots. This is shaping up to have the potential to possess parity like the NFL, to be a product that is, in terms of parity and in terms of national eyeballs, that's on par. Now, you're never gonna get as many viewers as the NFL, but this is going to be very NFL-like, which is where all of college football, major college football, is going anyway. It's just going to be semi-professional. The reason why I say this is because you're going to have different, eventually when they expand, you're going to have different pods that tie to your region, which is going to be perfect because that's what college football is about. But then you're also going to have the opportunity to be on one of these 3 networks, okay? Fox is going to, in part of this contract, Fox is going to cross-promote on to CBS. CBS is going to cross-promote onto NBC. You see that with the NFL. That's really going to, you never see that in college football right now. Hey, you're on watching ESPN tonight on Fox. Be sure, nope, you're going to see that with this contract as well, which I think is a big game changer as well. The other part of this that's just mind-blowing, I don't really like nor dislike, back in 2001, and I'd like to see the figures for every team, especially like the Rutgers and Northwesterns. Back in like 2001, I think it was, Iowa's cut from the Big Ten was like $7 million.
Wow.
Now you add in gate, you sold out your stadium all year this year. You add in gate, you add premium parking in, you add all the stuff around the stadium. You're looking at an Iowa. Guys, Iowa is the most lenient. I just saw this the other day. Has the most lenient standards to get into out of the entire Big Ten. Okay. One of the smallest AAU members in the Big Ten, though nothing to sneeze at, of the grandfathered teams. Iowa should not, in a state with 3 million people in another Division I school, they should not be making $100 million a year on football. Football,
right?
That I think that just puts this into perspective as to how big of a deal this is. The other part of this as well, the playoff structure and kind of, I think what we're going to, by the way, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit. I'm not. Maybe I'm giving myself, did somebody at the Big Ten just like watch what I laid out a few weeks ago for what the Big Ten should do in expansion and just be like, yeah, okay, we're going to do that. Or maybe it was just common knowledge and I thought I had stumbled upon something very original, but that seems like we're going to 4 pods of 5 teams eventually.
That's what I have been told.
And then a 10-game regular season with a semifinal game. I think that changes or solves the problem with your name as well. The Big Ten is no longer 10 teams. The Big Ten is the Big Ten games that you play in conference every single year. So I think this is all shaping up to be just an SEC. This is probably the best way I can put it. This is an SEC-proof conference. They don't have to worry about what the SEC tries to do or doesn't do coming down the line. Maybe with a few exceptions of as far as the ACC, but you don't have to worry now about SEC. Hey, Michigan. Hey, Ohio State. Hey, you want to come make some big-time money? I just think they've put themselves in a position now where they have basically bulletproofed themselves from any sort of outside chicanery like what we saw last year with the SEC poaching Oklahoma and Texas.
I do think you will see the league go to 10 conference games. I think most non-conference games will end up just being like MAC schools, basically treated as preseason games for that grind. With the additions of teams like USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, I think and Stanford and Cal will round it up to 20. I think you will go to 10 games. I think you'll see the league do conference games on a year-by-year basis. It'll be somewhere like, how did you finish the year before? Some kind of scheduling metric along those kinds of lines in terms of who you play, as well as protected rivalries. And then I think you could, though, get into some arguments where you could see the Michigan, Ohio States, Penn States, USCs of the world say, hey, man, if we have to play each other every year, so that even if we have a great season, we have 2 or 3 losses, we got to do this every year. There's got to be some kind of incentive here. Otherwise, what's the point of subsidizing Purdue to get to go 11-1 or 10-2 instead? You know what I'm saying? But those are all good conversations to have later. You'd much rather be having those debates than the debates they're having in the Pac-12 right now and almost everywhere else outside the SEC and college football, right? So those are the good kinds of internal squabbles to be having as opposed to what's going on elsewhere around the country. We'll come back, wrap things up here in just a few. All right, this week's Twitter poll, we asked you who wins the Big Ten West, and obviously Hawkeye fans that watch us came out in full force. Iowa wins this going away with 46.1%, Wisconsin next at 23%. Minnesota, who would be my pick, is at 18.2%. Someone else, Purdue or Nebraska, 12.7%. What do you think of that lopsided vote, Aaron?
Man, to disagree. I wouldn't be that confident because I am not that confident, and I really don't have much of a reason to have confidence in Iowa's offense. I hope I'm wrong. Everybody is discounting them. Everybody is discounting them, and I can't argue with that. But I do know that their strength and conditioning coach was the right-hand man of Chris Doyle, and he uses this type of stuff as motivation, or at least I imagine he does, having worked with Chris Doyle so this type of stuff, and almost everybody that I've heard in and around Iowa, college football, what have you, is really discounting Iowa this year. So prove them wrong, but I'm just not that confident. So I might put a gun to my head. I would probably just go Wisconsin. I know that's an uninspired pick. Very uninspired pick, but I just think to be the man, got to beat the man. Now, Minnesota last year beat the man, and this is now 2 wins. I think, is it 2 wins for
PJ's won 2 out of the last 3.
Yeah, against Wisconsin. Now, that's doing better than
and
Iowa
one of those was on the road.
Done. Yeah, so I'm not discounting Minnesota either. I just want to see what we've got from Wisconsin. That's all.
Our feedback of the week comes from Yak Rally, MD, PhD, JD, COW. It's a lot of abbreviations. We found it the worst idea yet. Congratulations. They just signed the biggest media deal in college sports history. They're not going to go out and immediately dilute the product. It's Notre Dame or it's nothing. Steve knows it, but he's truffle pigging for attention. Mark it down. There will never be a season that USC and UCLA are the only West Coast teams in this league. That's never happening. And it doesn't dilute the product. Oregon has one of the highest rated programs in terms of TV ratings in the country. So it wouldn't dilute the product at all. Wouldn't be the payoff increase that that Notre Dame brings to the table, obviously. But those schools are also in such desperate, dire straits that Oregon is in the best financial space as any of them, and they're willing to take a reduced allocation to get to the Big Ten. What do you think Stanford and Cal would do to get here? A burger, we'll pay you on Tuesday for a burger today. I mean, they'll panhandle to get to this league. The league is going to expand. It will have a full West Coast contingent for USC and UCLA and be a true national league. The question will then come, does it go one day beyond that once the ACC's grant of rights deal comes up? That's the real question. But the idea that it's Notre Dame or nothing, that's just not going to be the case.
I do think that, as we've talked about too, Notre Dame is a prerequisite, but I don't think once Notre Dame comes, I mean, that doesn't make sense just ending there, because there's 16 teams now.
Right.
So we're just going to go
Notre
to
Dame would
17.
be more attracted by the additions of teams like Stanford, for example.
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, what's Notre Dame's traditional schedule until it started playing half schedules in the ACC? Michigan every year, Michigan State every year, Purdue every year, USC every year, Stanford every year. That was half of its schedule, right? If all those teams are in the Big Ten, that's actually more incentive for Notre Dame to come, not less. So,
yeah, I don't really understand that.
I don't either, but appreciate the take nevertheless. And that'll do it for this week's episode of Bigger Ten. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share, follow, 5-star review, however you watch, whichever platform you use. Help us to find more Big Ten fans just like you, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Our numbers are going way up with the season drawing nigh. We're excited to see that because we're excited about the season drawing nigh too. You can also follow us on Twitter at Bigger10 in between episodes to keep up on what we think about all things Big Ten and more. We will be back next week with our first full-fledged game week of the year, and we cannot wait. Until then, for Aaron McIntyre, I'm Steve Deace. Thank you for watching Bigger Ten.